Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Take Back My Brain. I'm your host, Laurie Hammer, and today I'm really excited because I have Dr. Heather Wolfson with me. And I had the privilege back in July, if you want to catch this previous episode of her husband, Dr. Jack Wolfson, on July 5th, you can see her other half, listen to her other half, and you can put those pieces together and understand that they have this amazing mission to see families thrive and to really change the world. Dr. Heather is a wild mama. That is the name of her company. She also has some amazing products out there that I just started trying. I wish I would have known about these earlier, but they're amazing. And I want to read the back of this before Heather comes on. It says, "We are born wild, but we let them tame us, cage us, and make us sick. Men, women, and children are the sickest they've ever been in the history of mankind. Our ancestors expressed vibrant health, endless fertility, wild births, and wild children. What was their secret? Sun, sleep, and sustenance from soil to sea. Let me take you back to that untamed place. It is the greatest gift I can give you." Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, it's good to have you. And I feel like this really sums you up. I've been following you a bit on Facebook now just to kind of like, who is this crazy lady? And I think I found somebody that may be more crazy than I am. I don't know.
Imagine that.
Yep, yep. So, and for all of you out there, Heather's a fellow homeschooler, and we were just kind of chatting. Like, I couldn't even look back and not imagine doing what we're doing right now with our kids. It's amazing.
It really is. It's the way we used to do it, and it's the way we need to get back to doing it. And a lot of people get stressed out and say, where do I even begin? And I don't even call it really homeschooling, unschooling. We're sort of in the middle, and really unschooling helps that mom maybe take them out of the system and not have the stress of, oh my gosh, what program should I do, or what curriculum, and where do you even begin? Well, unschooling, you really don't have to worry about any of that. You just bring them home and buy them farm animals and grow gardens, and that's your day.
Yeah,
And they
and
know.
then we've always taught to their bent. Like, what do they want to do? That's what we do. And
Right?
it's been so much fun. So much
It's
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah. Did you start out this way as the
I
wild?
I did. It
Yeah.
took a little bit of time for me to convince my husband. Of course, he was, indoctrinated into the
Yeah.
medical paradigm, and it's hard to break those, I guess, cages, around our minds, from
Yeah.
medical school that he was indoctrinated into just, your public or private school education system really is just there to brainwash you and indoctrinate you into the wrong life. And so initially we had, our first two boys. They're currently 17, 12, 6, and 3. And my husband always jokes around and he says, same wife, different life, because we had our set of boys. And then we were surprised with our set of girls. I'll be 50 this year and still breastfeeding my 3.5-year-old. So they were sweet surprises. And so early on, we did, I guess you would call it homeschool, unschool with our first. It is harder to do it when you only have one child,
Oh, yeah.
because they're bored often. And so it's way easier when you have 2, 3, 4 kids. But I did take him home. I want to say it was first grade. And I told my husband, I said, we have to pull him out. This is wrong. And it took some years. We went back and forth. And as I've told you, I have a mold story that I've gone through that really set me back health wise, and was unable to really entertain these kids and give them what they needed.
Yeah.
And Jack thought it was best that they were in school. They were in a Waldorf school here in
Oh,
Colorado
sure.
6 years ago. And so, as natural as that is, it's still the system. It's not as natural as people think it is. And they're still learning the agendas, and wasn't for me ever. And just before COVID hit, we pulled them out, and that was, we never looked back, that's for
Great
sure.
timing.
Great timing. And Jack has never looked back. And there's, book after book that you can read about all of this, but it's really in your heart, especially as a mother, we know best. And if we
Yeah,
follow our instincts and we don't listen to our mother-in-law or best friend, whether it, them telling you to let your kid cry it out, or that they need to learn this in school. My mom's a former teacher, and she thinks I'm
oh, sure.
completely crazy. And you know what? She doesn't understand. She still doesn't understand to this day. Maybe somewhere in her heart she does, but it's hard for that generation to hear this.
Is.
It's hard
Yeah,
for them to see it. And it's hard for women like us, in our 30s, 40s, to go against that grain, the way that we've been indoctrinated, and have the confidence to
mhm,
use those maternal instincts and know that, my gosh, I could never separate my two girls. They're 6 and 3.
right.
I were to tell my 3-year-old that journey, my 6-year-old is going to first grade, or kindergarten would have been last year, I can't even imagine the tears. And what would she do all day? I mean, those two girls pal around all day, and they play with the animals, and they play house, and they're even if they're bored, they're going to be creative. Out of that boredom comes the most amazing things that they're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
create. And then to separate them, that's really what they this agenda wants. They want us divided. They want us to break that family unit. And there's so many families today struggling with their bonds and how close we are, and your siblings live on this side of the country and your mother lives on that side of the country, and we don't live the lifestyle we were intended to live. And the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, didn't come out of nowhere. It's really true. You need your mother and your sister and all of these aunts and uncles to help.
yeah.
And we've gotten so far away from that. And I am doing a complete, 180 with this family, and
Right.
returning ourselves to the wild and the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I love that. I know when we started homeschooling, my son he was just starting second grade, and I was pregnant with my daughter. And my husband was like, "You sure you want to do this? Because you're gonna have a baby and you're gonna start homeschooling at the same time." And I'm like, "Yes, if we're gonna do it, let's just do it." Because I just didn't like the system. It's not like we had this horrible experience, but it was just like you're talking, your mama instinct. I'm like, I don't like what they're teaching. Teacher was great, lovely, lovely woman. I think she thought that I thought she was bad, and I didn't. But it's just not the system that I wanted them in. And my husband's cousins, they had 8 kids, and I'm like, well, if she can homeschool 8, I can homeschool one and have a baby at the same time. And gosh, I've just never looked back from it. I cannot imagine making a different decision, because we're all so close, and there's an 8-year difference between my son and my daughter, and they're super close. Like, he was just the best big brother ever, and I cannot imagine her not having that on a consistent basis every single day. I mean, when he went off, he went to Ireland for a while to study, and then he bought his own house, and it's been hard, because she really loves her brother, and I couldn't imagine doing that to her, at an early age.
No, well, I tell my 17-year-old now, get that number 18 out of your head, because that also is just this made up number
It's a
where
made up number.
bye-bye, and you go on your own and you buy your own house. But I explain to him that we're supposed to stay together. Of course, they can, explore and travel and do their thing as they become older teenagers, but you got to keep them close to home, and that's where they belong. And he's got a 3-year-old sister, and you can't just leave, your siblings. You're supposed to stay together. If you look at any mammal in nature, whether they're an elephant, a group of elephants, or whales, you name it. My herd of goats, they don't separate. They don't always get along. The
Hmm.
mom and the babies and the siblings and the aunts, but they don't leave. They're together, and that's what you have to do. And you work through these family, issues, and then you're bonded for life, and you're always part of this tribe, and you're close by. So I just, when he moved to the Waldorf school, and he got held back because Waldorf he was always ahead, but he was young, and so they
Oh,
wanted him back just due to his age. And I thought, oh, well, I get another year with him before he goes off to college, meanwhile, we've thrown college right out the door. We took him
exactly.
home. I'm like, now you're with me forever. Nobody's going to control me or tell me when my kids can and can't leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a hard concept. College is a hard concept too. For people to like, they're always asking my daughter, well, what college are you going to? Are you going to go be? Because she loves horses. Like she lives, breathes everything horses, and she has very specific things she wants to do with them for the rest of her life. And we intend to help, feed that passion continuously and be part of that journey with her, just like we are with my son. And but people don't quite understand like why wouldn't you go to college? I mean, it seems more acceptable now than it used to be, but she gets a lot of kind of feedback. Well, if you're going to do this, how can you make any money on that? How can, all these kind of things. And I feel if the Holy Spirit tells you that's the direction you're supposed to go, then I would suggest you be obedient and go in that direction, because then he will make that happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, God has a much bigger plan than, the neighbor next door.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with this homeschooling and, your products and being able to feed our kids, when they're not in somebody else's system, and I even hate to use the word control, but really it is. You get to control, what they're putting in their bodies, what they're listening to, what their mind soaks up. And the food piece is so huge. And I know that's one of the reasons why you created your products, because you went through, that whole mold, illness. And I would love for you to share a little bit about, how you got to that journey and how that's impacted your family.
Sure. Even this morning, I had a conversation with my 17-year-old who's very, very rigid about their food. They take their food everywhere. So he mountain bikes and he races a lot. And he was just at a race and they all camped out, and I saw some of the food that he had purchased. And I keep reminding them, just because it says organic or just because it's this does not mean it's healthy. And we have to keep getting back to, our roots of our ancestral foods and making sure, so I'm constantly shoving my prenatal and my wild salmon roe down their mouths. And, it's a constant reminder. And as much as they think they know everything at this age, he's constantly reminded that, yeah, you know what, my mom is right. And maybe, I had some pimple, he told me, he's like, I got a few pimples this weekend because he brought these, organic marshmallows and roasted them and ate, some organic chocolate. And it's like, sometimes they have to fall off, the
Oh,
wagon to say,
totally. Yes.
yeah. And oh, mom's always right. And
Mhm.
so, as far as health and wellness and the foods and our environment, I really have two messages for the world that I believe I'm here for. I have a huge passion for children and animals. And I believe that the majority of the world is suffering from two things. One being toxicities, and the
Oh,
toxicity would be mostly from mold mycotoxins or bacteria in our home. It's water damage, mold, or bacteria, and deficiencies because of those toxins and or not consuming the right foods.
yeah.
So eating nose to tail for years, eating the muscle meat, the rich man's food, whether it's steaks or, whatever you're consuming protein wise, it's really not the right forms of food. Our ancestors ate organs, and
Mhm.
that's the poor man's food, or at least thought of today.
That's what they told
So
us.
yes. So, and that's what they wanted us was, dumbed down and sick. And so we're eating the wrong foods because of what they told us. So they've told us that fat's bad. They told us that eggs are bad. They've told us, everything. My husband spends his whole life now teaching people as a cardiologist to
Right.
eat, from the eggs to all the good fats and the meats and the organs. So, and the seafood, huge factor here. And what's important is, we do videos of my boys and Jack eating everything from wild bison testicles and liver. And, there was a show called The Food Factor, or no, what was it called? It was like, this show where when I was a teen, and they would eat all the parts of the animal, and it was gross, and it was like you were dared to eat this. And so we kind of make it a joke in our house, and sometimes it goes down with tears in their eyes, because they weren't necessarily raised on those foods, because I didn't have those foods when I was pregnant and nursing my first, but my second, third, and fourth, especially the two girls, they were raised on these foods. In utero and after, it was their first foods. So raw, fresh liver, egg, heart, you name it. My girls will literally ask for fresh liver for breakfast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they chew my prenatal, which is 60% liver. And these are the foods that our ancestors not only survived on, but thrived on. And
Right.
so it wasn't a question of whether they could get pregnant. It was, they literally had pregnancies well into their 50s. They had babies and they had healthy babies. They had healthy wild pregnancies, healthy wild deliveries, and healthy wild children. So they were thriving, they were vibrant. And today I cannot find a vibrant child. And if I do, I know they're unvaccinated, I know they're breastfed, and I know they're eating the right foods and getting sunshine and grounding and being outdoors. You can see it in the eyes. And I used to take my boys to classes, music classes and other, kid classes. And I used to get stares like I would, like the kid was, some weird, creation of a human. They were all the same age within months, and they would just stare at my son because they were so different. And really, and parents have all this guilt for not doing it. Trust me, I have plenty of guilt for not doing a lot of the right things early on, and not getting out of my house when I knew that it was probably mold, but every test said it wasn't until I found the right test, which is on my website and will save anybody and everybody's life. And so I have a lot of guilt for things I didn't do, but I always tell my patients, if you have the organs, you can heal. So it's never too late. As a chiropractor, I would have women who'd come in with 10 different organs removed, from their thyroid, to their appendix, to their gallbladder, their uterus, their ovaries. I mean, you can only help somebody so much when they've had organs removed. But if we are intact and we have all of these organs, we can heal. And especially our kids, they are so resilient. You bring them to a chiropractor and overnight they're different kids. I had kids meeting milestones that were a year past due on the chiropractic table. I had them milestones, rolling over, crawling, you name it. So imagine, between chiropractic care and feeding them these foods, what you can do for your child, whether they're on, the autism spectrum, or whether you just haven't incorporated some of these foods and they're having some speech delays, whatever it is, you start feeding a child the right food. It is night and day. With hours, I've had kids in my practice start speaking after giving them B12 rich foods like organs, who have never spoke a word in their lifetime. So overnight. And so kids are resilient. Adults are hard to treat. And that's why I loved, my pediatric practice, was because they were fun. They didn't complain about anything. And you saw results immediately. And so I really, really loved seeing these kids. And right now, it's such a small batch item. The organs from the wild bison are unvaccinated, 100% humane field harvested, which means there's no stress at the end of their life. They never go off to slaughter. And so the animal is all around just the most amazing, well-treated, humanely harvested animal. And so I'm waiting on more organs to complete my men, women, and children's line. But for now, everybody's taking the prenatal. If your kids can't swallow capsules, they open it up, they put it into their food or into a smoothie, whatever you do, and you get it in. It's actually baby's perfect first foods. And I will have a baby food that's the exact formula of my prenatal, but it'll be a powder with a different name. And so these are the foods that we need to be nourishing our bodies and brain with. On the product called Wild Salmon Roe for kids, it's called Brainchild. It comes out in 2 weeks, and it literally says on there, food for your brain. And this is what our kids are missing today. They are not eating the right foods. And if they're sorely missing and lacking in all these nutrients. And believe it or not, even the wild salmon, if patients say, well, what if I eat wild salmon 2 to 3 times a week? Well, I think that's awesome. But if you watch the video on my website, it's a bear in nature catching wild salmon. And
Which is
that
amazing that you all have to go to the website and watch the video. It is really cool.
It's
Yeah.
a really neat video. I'm glad you saw it. And the bear squishes out 3 different living wild salmon's, bellies for that salmon roe, eats the salmon roe and discards the living fish like it's garbage. And, only if it were starving would it eat the rest, but it knows, nature knows, humans have lost that instinct. I often say humans are the only mammals who don't know what to eat. We are so confused as humans. We've lost that instinct. And so if we get back to nature, we become wild again, we learn even from the animals that are eating these foods and watch them and what they do. The nutrient richest part of that animal is the salmon roe. And as my husband says, a chicken's egg has everything it needs to come to life. It's literally a multivitamin, right?
Oh,
So
100%.
this fish egg is a multivitamin from the sea, living, it's inside of a salmon. And so you can literally live on my products, on my stack, the prenatal stock. And every man, woman, and child takes my stack. I have as many 70-year-olds on this product as I do pregnant women, and I have as many men on it as I do pregnant women. And they're all thriving on these products and changing their lives. So we really just need to get back to our wild, as I say. And if you don't care for the taste, like I don't, of wild bison liver, let's say, then take it in a capsule form. I always recommend fresh. I can handle heart. I actually love eating the raw, fresh heart, but I can't do the testicles. I can't do the liver. There's some things where
It's hard.
it is. And, I'll let my girls enjoy it. They even chew my prenatal when they can swallow, but they like
That's
the
fantastic.
they were raised on those foods.
Yeah, and it makes such a big difference because you and I were not. I mean, we had our garden, we had like homegrown pigs and chickens and ducks and stuff when I grew up, but I mean, we were still eating mac and cheese and pot pies. We may have had the liver and the heart of the chicken, but we never ate it out. Clearly not the pork. But we just didn't. I mean, my mom would try to tell me that beef liver was hamburger, but she wouldn't eat it. And my dad liked it, so every now and then I would get it, but it certainly wasn't raw. It was definitely cooked. But yeah, we just kind of have to grow up with that stuff. So I think you're nutrient dense. I mean, it's incredible. When I saw your products, I'm like, where have you been my whole entire life? And why bison as opposed to beef? Because I know people are going to say, well, one, it's a lot more expensive, and I can get this beef supplement, right here. I have a beef supplement. Like, what's the difference, Heather?
There's a big difference, Lauren. I wish there wasn't, but there is. So
Right.
first of all, I just held up Ancestral supplements.
Yes.
So popular brand, and that is made from cattle in New Zealand, and those countries are dairy countries. So these animals are not only milked to death their entire life and then slaughtered at the end of their life for their organs. So we're not talking about a healthy young animal. We're talking about an animal.
See, these are things we don't know, right? Yeah.
Sure. And
Yeah.
being the animal advocate and lover that I am, I cannot and will not consume those types of animals. I cannot sell those types of animals just from coming from my heart.
Yeah.
So I wish I could be a vegan, truly.
I know, me too. I know. I understand why people want to be vegan.
Right? So I understand it, but it's not healthy. And so I had to set out to do way better. And so a cattle is also heavily vaccinated, especially coming from those countries. They're heavily vaccinated, they are dewormed. And when you are eating the liver or any organ from a vaccinated animal, you are eating the liver that processed these ungodly, I mean, the poison in a vaccine, from an aborted fetal cell tissue to aluminum and mercury and you name it, that's what you're eating, right? So our liver, okay, is a detoxifying organ, right? But it's in all, it doesn't leave that animal's body. He also sells brain tissue. So, a lot of these the fat area of these animals is where these vaccines, the body's smart. It wants to put it in the fat, and the brain is the majority of its fat. Fat on the animal. He even sells the fat in a lot of his products. So you are consuming vaccines when you eat cattle.
And they're not marketed that way.
No, sadly. And then
Sadly.
the ending of their life is the most tragic to me. I care most about the ending of their life. And the end of their life is sad and it's scary, and they are transported to places for slaughter, and it is not a good thing.
Right.
And my animals are wild. These are wild bison on tens of thousands of acres, and it is a humane field harvest, which means that the animal is shot by a marksman from very far away, and
Wow.
the animal never knows it's going to die. So it's born on these wild prairie grasses. It's raised by its mother for 2 to 3 years, and they harvest the animals around age 2 to 3.
Wow.
And they are not senile, old, milk to death. You can't even milk a bison. They're wild. So there's no such thing as bison milk.
Right.
You might be able to find water buffalo from my favorite Amish farmer in Pennsylvania, Miller's Organic Farm, but you're not going to find wild bison milk. They are wild. And so mine are 100% humane field harvested. They are 100% vaccine free, not just the COVID vaccine and all, it's not even a vaccine, the COVID shot. We are talking every kind of shot known to man that bison and cattle get in this country and all countries. It's not just cattle who get vaccines, but the bison get several vaccines. They are also, most companies in this country do not humane field harvest. It's a very, very expensive process. And in fact, my supplier for my organs, I offered to even purchase them a truck, which they needed to increase my supply because of my demand. And I said, come on, you guys are not keeping up. I have 7 more products. What can I do? Can I buy you the truck? And she's like, it's not that simple. The truck is a couple $1,000,000. It's a very, very expensive process. So it's like, yeah, the no joke situation, which is why only maybe 2 to 3 farms that I know of, and they're not farms, it's wild, animals, do this type of harvest. They're also never dewormed because they don't need to. So if you're deworming an animal, they're deworming them for their liver. And what do you think you're eating? And what do you think is in that liver? So that you can't even compare. We're not even in the same stratosphere, my company and any cattle company. I wish there was. And I'm fighting. Every penny I make is donated. I donate more of this product than I do in sales. And I also spend all my time and money and effort to fight all the laws that restrict cattle and other animals from a humane field harvest, because there's only elk and bison are allowed to be humane field harvested. I think it's 0.002% is the threshold right now, which is where elk and bison are at. If they go over that threshold, then animals like elk and bison will be off that list as well. And that's why I think they're trying to get the military and other people to really engage in the production and eating more of the bison so that they can be kicked off that list and then make it to humane field harvest. So it's my goal to not only rehabilitate the numbers of the bison back to the plains where they were originally here and killed off, but to preserve these laws, not only for the bison and the elk, but to bring those laws to the other animals like cattle and lamb, whatever it is, to have those rights. So huge difference between the 2 companies. I have the cleanest line out there. I wish it wasn't 3 times the cost. It is, but I always tell every patient and every customer, if you can't afford it, please reach out to me, because I do this to heal the world, and every mama and baby deserve this nutrition. Every man and woman deserves this nutrition as well. If you're not pregnant, you still deserve this. Every child deserves this, and every animal deserves to have the ending of their life and their whole life be the way that these bison are raised and harvested. So that's my passion. That's why I do what I do.
Wow. I loved you before you got on today, and I think now you almost make me want to cry. I love you even more. So thank you for all that you're doing with all of this. I wish my daughter was sitting here beside me, because like you guys is, I'm passionate about this as well, but she's like at a whole different level when it comes to the humane treatment of animals. Like even just like our horses and stuff, we don't do the conventional stuff with them, and anyway, long story, right? But can you tell me, since you've been fighting this for so long, why do we not allow, like, cattle to be harvested. I don't understand like what's the behind it other than just money.
It's a deeper, darker agenda, just like the children and vaccines and
Okay.
school agenda.
Yeah.
And if we can get you through the belly, they vaccinate pregnant women, and they vaccinate the child, the newborn, on its first hour of life for hepatitis B,
No.
something to never be exposed to. So, I mean, you can't reason that. You can't explain anything away, and there's no reason why that should be illegal to humane field harvest a cow.
Right.
So, it's all to create suffering. It gets dark and deep, down the rabbit hole, but it's just facts and it's the truth, because you can't give it any other reason. And
Right.
so, much safer process. It's the process that Wild Idea goes through when they do my bison organs. They are such amazing humans who care about this animal.
Mhm.
And the man who started this company has a heart of gold, and he set out to rehabilitate
Mhm.
Dan O'Brien. He has several books on this. He set out to heal the land and heal the bison numbers back to the land.
Yeah.
And he talks about, it's hard not to cry too. My husband just interviewed him. It's just when you see people who care so much about, he talks about the insects, the birds, the everything on the prairie, and his intent like 30 years ago, and to see where he's come today,
Wow.
not support a man like that. And they give me the majority of their organs because they believe in me and my message and what I do.
Amen.
I begged for more, and they're working on ways to get me more organs so I can supply more of the world. But that's how deep this company goes. Is everything from the pans my tallow is cooked in, our
Mhm.
surgical stainless steel pans from
Yeah.
Salad Masters. There's no
Yeah,
leaching
me
into
too.
the
Yeah.
product, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so I'm neurotic when it comes to this stuff. When it comes to animals and God's earth, I will go to the ends of the earth to make it the healthiest product and make sure not one animal was injured inhumanely. And if an animal dies for our health, they will be honored. We will eat them nose to tail. And the more nose to tail we eat, the better the pricing becomes, because we
Right.
utilize the whole animal. And we're actually trying to do something with Wild Idea now, where they harvest the animal and shoot, I hate even talking about it, but through the heart as opposed to the head, because I want to preserve the brain. Speaking about brain wellness,
Yeah.
um, brain is so healthy to consume, and our ancestors consumed it tremendously.
Yeah. And I think it would heal a lot of all these issues that we have, from Parkinson's to MS to, you name it. Um, yeah,
It
definitely.
would. So they're in talks right now about how to harvest some animals special for wild mamas, so that I can provide the brain to these women and children, especially while they're pregnant, because there could be nothing healthier than all the organs, but especially the brain. And it will heal a lot of these brain-based disorders. Again, they are stemming from living in mold. But if we deal with the mold, and we eat the right products, our cells can detoxify the mold mycotoxins. And you can take binders all day long, you can do all kinds of remediation. If we are not feeding our cells these nutrients that our ancestors ate daily, we'll never heal. And so I hate for somebody to think that there's a vitamin or a supplement out there that's going to cure them. It's two things. We have to look at our environment in our home. We have to see what we're exposed to, because every one of you, I have a brand new home. I've lived in several brand new homes. They all have mold and bacteria from water damage, from the construction
Yep.
to a simple leak. So your dishwasher, your washing machine, your refrigerator, they all leak at some
Just
point.
happens. Yeah.
And it does, and it's killing the world. So, and it's in the Bible, believe it or not,
Yes.
the mold situation. So it's pretty serious. And so besides those toxicities of mycotoxins, we've got to look into these organs, and we have to change the course of these children, because they need us, and they need doctors like me, and they need
Yeah.
women like you, anybody. You can be a stay-at-home mom, and you could be smarter than the best MD out there, right? So
Yep.
as long as we're listening to our instincts and we're feeding our kids the right way. And don't be embarrassed. You know, my kids take liver treats to a birthday party. They don't eat the blue cupcakes,
Oh,
that they
ever.
get. Their liver treats and, some sort of, I don't know, dried fruit. That's their treat.
I love it.
And they brag about it, they don't,
They're not
care what.
embarrassed by it. They're not, yeah.
Not at all. They brag about it and they try and teach other kids and encourage them to eat it. So
Yeah. I know there's some mamas gonna be listening to this. You're like, that's all fine and good, Heather. But okay, maybe we don't eat the blue dyes, but my kids not grown up on liver treats. Like, what would be the next best option?
give them the supplements. Trust me, I don't ever, and if you watch my Instagram, you'll know I always start out the video. I am no chef and I am no like Martha Stewart in the kitchen kind of,
Me either.
home. I am not. And my kids are wild half the time. I mean, I don't know where they are on my property, what if they ate lunch. Oftentimes I'll just see them walking around with a Wild Mama's prenatal bottle and I'm like, oh, I forgot lunch. I'm not perfect, but they know where to find good food and they'll find it. But so don't be so hard on yourself. It's not hard to do it the right way. What did our ancestors do? They weren't sitting there, with 17 stacks of books,
No.
taking, tests and writing essays. Just feed them, just keep healthy food around the house.
Yep.
Do my kids eat ice cream? Yeah, but of course it's grass fed and organic and usually homemade.
Yes.
And I made a video. Yeah, my kids have eaten ice cream for breakfast and it's okay because it was made with raw cream, raw milk, and raw honey. And it's fun. And then they had a popsicle for breakfast this morning of like a slushy we made of fresh fruit, put it into a freezer. That was their breakfast. And you know what? I had a podcast I had to do today. And who knows what they're doing right now for lunch. But you don't have to make yourself crazy as long as you get the right things in your house. If you're giving them Wild Mama's prenatal stack and they can take all three, you are light years ahead of where you were before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Child out there.
So talk about the wild salmon roast. So we talked about the bears eating it. But why is this so, I mean, this stuff is, I wish you guys, if you are on YouTube, you can see it, but this is like so nutrient rich. It smells so good. Like I started taking this and I'm like taking like 12 a day right now because I'm just craving them. Honest to goodness, Heather. So
Body
I'm
tells
gonna have
you.
to make another order probably later today because my daughter's liking them too. So yeah, they've been so good. Yeah.
I tell people to dose what their body tells them. And especially if you are chewing them like my kids, people always ask, are you worried that your kids are going to overdose or can you overdose? Especially a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Our ancestors ate 50 times the amount of vitamin A we are consuming on a nose to tail organ diet. Okay, so there is no risk of overdosing on vitamin A. We are so critically deficient in vitamin A. This is what makes us bulletproof. So my kids have had, chicken pox and hopefully they get all of these, infections that a child is supposed to have, right? But you don't just throw them out into the world and say, get chicken pox, right? You want to have them under chiropractic care and get them the right nutrition. So their vitamin A levels need to be really high to get through this crazy world that we're dealing with. And so I take between of my prenatal 6 to 8 on an average day. If I have a really stressful day, I'll take 12 or I'll take whatever my body tells me. And I usually do the salmon roe as well, kind of dose in the smell. When you showed it to me and smelled it, I'm already, my mouth is salivating because I know
me too. I'm like, I really want to eat this right now. So
so I do the same thing and my kids, do the exact same way. So you'll never overdose on these products. And another question I get is, can I take it on the same day that I've had wild salmon? And I actually do it on purpose because it all kind of goes together.
Yeah.
And I have a really unique part of the roe in my product. I have what's called the skein, S-K-E-I-N. And the skein is like the placenta. And so I did not have them purposefully remove the egg from the skein because it has so many benefits. So for example, when a woman gives birth and her uterus, you'll oftentimes, or the placenta, they'll give it to the midwife and they'll freeze dry it into capsules, right? So something our ancestor did, something every mammal does, even a goat who doesn't even eat meat will eat its placenta, number one, for
because it's good.
but
Yeah.
because it's good and it's giving them that jump start that they need for breastfeeding,
Mm-hmm.
for nursing. And so this skein has amazing benefits, including butyric acid, which
Wow.
Jack fills that in his practice. And I'm like, get rid of the synthetic, lab made stuff and get just these foods made, because this is by God, by nature. This has everything in the right amounts, the right ratios, cofactors, peptides, you name it, by nature, by it's food. And
Yeah.
so, yes, you should take it when you have wild salmon in the day. And I usually take it 5 to 6 days a week. I take my prenatal 7 days a week, or I'll just do it like you said, as my body says. And if it's 2 weeks in a row, I'll do it 2 weeks in a row. And if I don't feel like taking it that day, my body's telling me I need a day off. And the other great thing about my wild salmon roe is it was third-party tested, and it has 0 microplastics and undetectable levels of mercury, which is really unheard
Is
of.
unheard of, Heather. When I saw your video on that, I'm like, how on earth, or how in the water did that happen? Because like that's unheard of.
It
Totally
is
unheard
unheard of, and so maybe it was a godsend. We have Lummi Island fishes in the Salish Sea in between British Columbia and Washington State, some of the cleanest waters, on Earth, and I was hoping for the best, but didn't know it would come out this clean. There are a couple other companies, Ancestral Supplements and Paleo Valley, who do sell a fish roe, but it is not wild salmon.
No, it's
So
not.
Ancestral sells, I don't even know what this fish is, the Hoki Ling fish. He doesn't even report testing on his website. He probably doesn't even spend the money doing it, because he probably knows the results are garbage. And Paleo Valley, I believe, is an honest, good company, and they do report their findings, and they do have a significant amount of mercury in there, and they talk about the selenium offsetting that. Mine has undetectable levels, and
Wow.
their fish is cod. They sell cod,
Yeah.
and nobody sells wild salmon roe. And my salmon roe also is unsalted, so the
Which is a
standard.
big deal. Oh my gosh, that's such a big deal.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Salt should be, I love salt. Salt is critical, but it should be dosed pure. Like we have a salt block, silly enough, on our kitchen counter, and we'll lick it. Like we have an animal redundancy salt block. And my husband thought I was crazy. And it's better than adding it to your water. And the standard industry salt for caviar, which is what this roe is a very toxic industry salt. It's not healthy. And actually, the company, I have links on my website for more seafood from Lummi Island. And if you use code Wild Mamas, you'll get a free salmon fillet. But they changed their entire company to use a healthier salt, and they got away from the standard industry salt. They're the only company doing that. And so they're amazing, just like Wild Idea, just a heart of gold, the man who owns that company. And I don't eat seafood from anywhere else except from those two, from his company, and the
Wow,
meat
that's
from.
amazing. I had never heard of them before, and I looked them up, started following you, and I'm like, wow, this is really incredible. Did you have a question?
Sure.
Yeah. So amazing. What about the emu oil? If we're gonna do the whole prenatal, we have to talk about the emu oil for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard of it, but I've never taken it, and I was like, holy cow, this is amazing too. So
It is off the charts amazing. So I call it sort of the icing on the cake of my prenatal stack, and it's loaded with all the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. And it's the only source of K2 that actually crosses the placenta, which is super important for pregnant women. It's a absolute crime what we're doing with pregnant women today, and the synthetic lab made prenatals that they're taking, and especially the K2. It's actually calcifying their placenta and never even getting to their baby. So the baby's not getting K2, and in turn, you're actually harming your body and your placenta, because it's calcifying. My first two, pretty much my third as well, I had some calcification in my first two pregnancies for sure, a calcified placenta, and it was because I was taking synthetic lab-made prenatals.
yeah, yeah.
It's so critical. And I set out to, like I told you, I had to have something perfect and better than anything out there, which is why I did my own bison organ line and my old wild salmon roe. but I couldn't set out to do a better emu oil, knowing how important this was. I set out to do something better and couldn't. And so Elizabeth from Walkabout Emu said, "You're the only gal I will co-brand with," and could knows my reach to women and babies, and that's all she cares about. She has a heart of gold, and all she cares about is getting this product into pregnant women and babies, just like my goal. And so that is why I have that as the third product. It's good for every man, woman, and child. My husband, Dr. Jack, he sells that to every patient he has for anything from cardiac reasons to skin health. It's in my skin products, my tallow.
Yeah.
It's in every tallow I create. It's amazing from the inside to the outside. So, it does amazing things for our skin, and it does amazing things for the inside of our body, but so critical for those fat soluble vitamins and that K2. So all these women and men who are taking vitamin D with, K, and you think you're this, scientific, study says this much K to that much D, and everything's artificial.
Yeah, it is
So
artificial. And as a nutritionist, that frustrates me. So I'm always trying to find, how can I do this with just food? And it's really, really hard. And it's really hard, like I was holding up this, supplement, like it's hard to find really good supplements.
well, you found the best of the best. And
Yeah,
that was
I did find the best of the best. Like I'm so excited about all of this. Yeah.
But you said one important thing, and it was hard for me to make that jump, even as a chiropractic physician while pregnant, to trust in nature, because I always said our soil is stripped, everything
Yep.
is ruined by chemicals. There's no way you can grow a healthy baby on just food. And that's what I used to tell my patients,
Oh,
of which I have a huge
100%. Yes.
support.
Yep.
And I said, you need supplementation. Well, little did I know, and I always knew about organs. I always took products with organs in there, but they were pixie dust amounts. This is straight 100% organs, nothing else in there, nothing. Okay. And so I was doing pixie dust amounts, and it was not helping anybody whatsoever.
Yeah.
You need good doses of real good organs to make a difference and make that needle move. And that's what my products do. And so I jumped from that train of thought of, even as a chiropractor, I trusted finally. And in my fourth pregnancy at age 45 is when I was pregnant and delivered Brave. She is the healthiest pregnancy and the healthiest baby out of all four at the oldest, age 45.
It's amazing.
So I'm telling you, it was 100% the organs. That's what it was. And I finally trusted in nature that yes, there is a way to do it from food, but the right foods, not steak, not kale, organs and salmon roe and emu.
Yeah. It's a whole different train of thought. Whole different train of thought.
It is.
Yeah. It's kind of, we talk about unlearning, unschooling, all that kind of stuff. This is an unschooling, unlearning,
Sure.
next step in your health journey. 100%.
Get rid of the fear
Yeah.
that we've all been brainwashed with, that you need those prenatals, okay? And you don't need anything that's different from conception, fertility to pregnancy to postnatal. It's it's food, and they're the right foods. It's organs, salmon roe, emu oil. It will change your life, as you've noticed.
Yep. I 100% believe you. I want to continue this conversation another time. So everybody just know that there's going to be another conversation with Dr. Heather. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love your message. I love your mission. Thank you everyone for listening. Is there any final word that you would like to leave the audience until the next time?
Until the next time. Well, I'm going to run after this and take my salmon roe. And then I'm also going to say, here's my full complete message. Birth at home, co-sleep with your babies, never let them cry it out, breastfeed on demand, never have a feeding schedule, use your breast as your pacifier, and never, ever, ever vaccinate, and never succumb to the agenda. It'll never, ever work in your favor. It's an agenda. And if you trust your mother instincts, everything will turn around and life will really just open up, and trust those mama instincts. That's the best message that I can give you today.
Awesome. I don't think there's a better message. So thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you all for listening. God bless you. I will see you in the next episode.
Got it.